Alright, so this is going to be another beginner tutorial, but that doesn't mean it's only limited to beginners. Hopefully those with advanced experience can learn from this as well. But I figured I would just show you guys some of the very most basic techniques that I use on a daily basis so you can just get started as quickly as possible. So the most basic thing I do is you can drag with the middle mouse button. You can see down here which buttons I'm using at all times. You can zoom in by moving your scroll wheel, and you can select things by right-clicking on them. See? And then left, it's kind of counterintuitive, I mean, from pretty much every program ever, but left kind of reorients this little cursor thing, which is used to add in objects and bones and whatnot in a certain spot. But anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to switch into orthographic mode by pressing numpad 5, not the keys, this has to be the numpad, and then that makes it much easier to see your object without warping. And then I'm going to open up a second window by dragging this. I'm going to press T and N to get rid of these menus. You can bring them back with T and N. And then to lock into a certain viewpoint, you can press the numpad keys. See, it just switched to right orthographic. You can see it up here. And here I'm going to go to the front. Alright, and then after that, let me just delete that, I won't need it. After that, I'm going to want to add images. So I'm going to put this here. Press L, click the left mouse button to orient your little cursor to wherever you want the image to appear. Press Shift A, excuse me, you need to be in object mode before you can add an image. Press Shift A, and you can switch into object mode by pressing Tab. Shift A, empty, image. You'll want to go over to this little three-pronged shape, press Open. You want to go to Desktop, or wherever you put yours. You want to press R, because R is the keyboard shortcut for rotation. You can rotate on the X-axis 90 degrees. If you press X, Y, or Z after you press R, it will rotate specifically on that axis instead of just, rotating any direction. So since this is the front, I'm going to line up the front side of the image with it. And then I'm going to have to deal with, I'm going to push this back a little. Then we're going to want to deal with the right side, so we're going to do that again. Empty, image, open, double click it. If we rotate on X this time though, it doesn't look like anything's changed because we're just rotating on X, you see? So we're going to need to rotate on X, 90. We're going to need to rotate on the Z axis this time, 90. And now you can see it. So you press scale to move it on up. Then you're going to want to try and match the size of the planes together, which is easiest by matching the top and the bottom. About that. So now we've got our front image and our right image, and I'm going to move this one back here so it doesn't get in the way. There. Alright, so now we're all set up. Then we're going to press X to delete this because we don't want a cube. You're going to want to press where you want your, it's a little confusing in 3D space, but where you want your cursor and your object to appear. You're going to press Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. Now this is too many sides, so before you do anything, change this to 6, because if you start modifying it, you will not be able to change it later. And then I'm going to move this to his back leg, because that's where I usually start my models. I'm going to switch back here, do that. And then I'm going to put this right in the middle. Now, while we're in object mode, we're going to go to our wrench, we're going to add a modifier, and we're going to add mirror. And mirror will make it so that anything that you model on one side of the mesh will happen to the other side, like symmetry. So we're going to press Tab to go into edit mode, and then we're going to pull these apart, and now we're ready to start sculpting. So, oh wait, there's one last thing. Here, this is the thing I do, not everyone does, but I like to drag this up, click this little circle down here. This is your Viewport shading menu, which means you can have it be material, solid, wireframe. The most important one right now is rendered. So this is currently what your image looks like. Very impressive, I know. We're going to go to this little marble-shaped icon here. We're going to press New, and then we can press Shadeless. And you can see that the cylinder turned to white because I added a shadeless material to it, which means that no light is hitting it. So it's only showing its true color, its true local color, as opposed to it being hit by a light source. And there isn't even one because I deleted it. So we're just going to pretend like we're doing an illustration right now. We're going to match up the color to basically the skin color on here. You can double click here and rename it. And then I don't like this gray back here, so I'm going to go to this little world icon, choose horizon color. I'm going to lighten it. Much better. This way my sense of color is more accurate because that's the color of the background I used in my reference image. Alright, so now we're totally ready. A couple more things that would be helpful to know are the fact that you can press C to go into wireframe mode. You can press B to box select things. Instead of just, manually clicking, you can press B to select mini, which is useful. You'll want to press Z to do this, that way you don't miss any in the back. Because if I don't press Z and I just select here, then you don't get anything in the back. And then another thing, you can press A to select everything, like A for all. And then if you hold Shift and B, it gets rid of those fuse verts that you selected. This is a little bit complicated, so later on if you're confused, just look at the keys that I'm pressing down here. And then that should be about it for starting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to press G to move it, kind of just match up where the bottom of the feet are. And so I did not quite do this correctly, so I'm going to move this up just a little bit so that the bottom of the cylinder is the bottom of the paw. So, okay, now I'm going to try and go quick here and just kind of start with the basic shapes. Like, don't worry yourself too much about the details at the beginning because they really don't matter and they'll mess you up. So your real goal here, press B to select all of these verts, is to match the silhouette of whatever you're sculpting. See, now I'm just dragging these down. You can press R to rotate an entire plane of verts. And that'll be really good for that. Let's see. I'm going to just move these here. But you want to match the basic silhouette because you're working in solid colors. And when you're working in solid, shadeless materials, silhouette becomes very, very important. Alright, and then, so I'm just going to ignore the paw for now. I'm going to keep working up. You can extrude. Press E to extrude upwards. Pressing E on a row of verts kind of picks up the whole thing. And then if you want to extrude in a certain direction, say upwards or left or right, you just press the keyboard shortcut of the direction you want to extrude in. For instance, if I want to extrude straight up, which I do, I press Z. And then I'll go in and I'll push it down to here just so it's exactly in the right spot because it can end up over here if you're not careful. And then I'm going to press S to scale outwards. I'm going to watch over here at the same time. It's getting a little bit wide, so I'm going to press S to scale on the X. That way it doesn't scale like this, or it doesn't scale like just, generally, if you scale specifically on the X, it will make this part thinner. And then I can select the entire ring of verts without having to box select them by pressing Alt and then right click, and that will just select an entire ring of verts. So with that, I'll take S and I'll scale on X. And we're getting there. We're getting there. So I'm going to box select with B these two, kind of push them that way. Okay, here comes another important term. Control R adds a loop cut. A loop cut just adds another row of verts, which is one of the most important tools in my arsenal because it allows you to make your models more complex. And then I'm just going to drag out the knee. I'm going to add I'm going to Alt right click, double tap G, and you can slide your row of verts up and down, also very, very useful. And then I'm going to loop cut again down here. I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to box select both of these, double tap G, move them so that they're in a more graceful line. So our topography is looking pretty good so far. It's not all over the place. We're going to want to Alt right click, press E to extrude, and then you want to extrude on Z. You're going to want to scale it and drag it so that it matches. And then I'm going to select these two on the outside. Actually, first I'm going to go down to here. This is your selection choice. You can choose vertices, edges. You can all the controls I told you apply to these as well. And you can choose faces. So I'm going to right click and select this face and press X and delete it because I don't need it. Then I'm going to right click both of these. I'm going to drag up on Z. I'll switch back into right view so I can see what I'm doing. And then here we go. And down here you can see it's already starting to take form. Then we're going to select these two verts. We're going to press we're going to press E to extrude on X. And this is a problem. They need to be linked together. So we're going to go back into our modifier and we're going to click clipping here. And then when you push them together, they don't move apart anymore. They can move back and forward, but not apart because they're glued together now. I'm going to take these two and I'm going to push this out so the bum can be round. Whoa. Gotta be kind of careful when you're selecting things, they can go crazy. Alright, and so then from this point, I'm going to do something a little bit time-saving. Actually, I'm going to make the pause before I do this. Anyway, I'm going to rotate. I'm rotating on X here because I don't want it to be rotating this way. I want it to be rotating up and down. And I'm going to take this row of verts, press G to move them. Going to rotate them so I can start to flesh out the paw. I'm going to press E. I'm going to extrude on X. I'm going to extrude on Y. I always get those confused. You'll learn that about me. And then, okay, so it's out here. There's no weirdness going on. Maybe a little bit of weirdness, but we'll fix it. And then we're going to rotate on X again. We're going to scale it. And then we've got the paw just about started here. We're going to extrude on Y one more time. We're going to scale. We're going to kind of drag it to where it seems like it's right. Now obviously this is not the best paw in the world right now. In fact, it's not good at all, but hold on a second, this is bad. Okay, so we're going to Alt select, Alt right click, and this is what happens when you don't check from alt angles. So we're going to scale on X to make this a little bit chubbier. In fact, let's look at our reference image. Maybe that would be useful. We're going to scale on X. I'm going to Alt right click this and scale on X again. And then one more time here. And now I'm not going to fool with each toe at the moment. I'm trying to go faster than usual here. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm going to press A and select everything. And then I'm going to press Shift D. I'm going to click the left mouse button. I'm going to drag this forward. This is something I do to save myself a lot of time. You may ask, how is this supposed to be the front foreleg, Cherylynn? No, that doesn't work. But fear not, we're going to just kind of push things around until the silhouette is the same. This is how I save a lot of time. You can just reuse different parts and copy paste them to fit in other spots. And no one will even know, I promise. So I'm just going to match the silhouette of the object. Just pretty roughly. Alright, so we're getting close. We're going to want to push this back. We're going to want to bring this down just a little bit. So this is going to be the elbow, so I got to pay close attention. You want to pay close attention to joints because when you're rigging, they have to be in the right spot. Move this down a little. I'm going to make it obvious where the elbow is. So I'm going to push out the elbow right there. You can see it. We're getting there. I'm going to grab all these with box select, grab them and bring them down with G. Whoa. And I'm going to push this vert back in. Okay, now we're going to want to check how things are going. And we're going to want to move things in a little. I might have made his legs a little too curvy in my drawing, which does not make my life easier. Grab these verts. If you're getting confused about anything I'm doing, essentially I'm just right-clicking on verts, pressing G, and moving them. That's 85% of what I do for my whole life. Okay. So now we've got his forelegs and his back legs. I want to make sure that this is in the very most right spot we can get it. So this is going to be his shoulder, and this is kind of like his thigh. Then we're going to want to take these three verts, and we're going to extrude on Y. About halfway, we're going to take another 3, extrude on Y. And now these ones won't clip together, so we have to manually clip them by selecting one, selecting the other, Alt-M at last. Now that will change if you select something else. Like if I select it in the same order, and I press at first, it will merge it where the first vertex was located. Sorry, I need some water. So you'll have to be careful in which order you select verts. And if you put at center, it'll kind of average it out in the middle as opposed to, you know, bottom or the top. But yeah, I'm just going to do at last because I'm used to that. Now this one's weird, so I'm going to press G and pop it down a little bit. Okay, so now we want to match the silhouette, so we're going to take these and we're going to push them down. And this is not quite right, so I'm going to push this down even more. Okay. Take this vert and push. I'm gonna press Control R. That will add another row of verts. And then we're almost there. So now we've got the bridge between the legs and the forearms set up. So now I'm going to actually push these down again. Okay, so I'm going to take these verts here. I'm going to extrude up on Z. That's Z. I'm going to scale it. Then I'm going to press this and this, Alt M at last. Alt M at last. At last. I'm going to scoot this up a little, and so we can already see the body starting to take form. We can take these and push it out a little. Push these in. Kind of keep track of what's happening to the body right now from all angles. And then I am going to select, this one first. These two, I'm going to press E to extrude on Z, push it this way. I'm going to press this one, and this one. I'm going to press F to fill in a face. Push those forward, where the neck will be when I'm ready for it. It's looking a little peculiar right now, but alright, so I'm going to press Alt right click to get them all, except these. I don't want those. Did I? No, okay. Deselect those. Go to side, and I'm going to extrude on Z again. Do some of this. Just gotta get it in the right spot here. Push this down here. And we're almost there. I'm actually gonna push these down so I can add one more row here. I'm gonna do Z, and then we're going to drag it this way so we can start to close off that hole. And this is not supposed to be clipping yet. How naughty. Come on. You gotta watch to make sure certain vertices don't clip before you're ready for them to clip. Okay, we're gonna select them all again. One more time, E. We're gonna extrude on the x-axis, and then we're gonna flip them. We're just gonna drag back until they all clip together. So it's nice and sealed. There are no holes anymore. The next thing I always do is I always check to make sure we don't get any double verts like that, because that will happen. I'm gonna merge them together. Another one. Goodness. Together. And then there might be another one down here. Gotta be careful of these sneaky little mistakes that happen in the process. Another one, goodness. Alright, so we're good here. We're good. The body is getting there. Now from the front, this is clearly not correct. We're gonna wanna push that in a little, and if you have a reference of a real animal, it might help you more than this reference is helping me. Push this in. You can double tap G to just kind of shape along the line you've set up. Well, okay, I'm going to rotate in. Push these ones in to kind of tell where the rib cage would be. In fact, I'm just going to take the whole face and press in. you can always look on this side as well to see if anything is like not making a whole lot of sense. Alright. Looks like we got a good amount of polys. The topology isn't too wrecked here. Can probably push this up a little. Alright. Give him a round bum. I'm going to ignore the fluffy tail for now because that is an extraneous detail. So, alright. We are almost there with the base. There's a lot left to do, but already you can see that he's a headless hound from hell and he's ready to go. Now I'm going to ignore the fact that he is completely fluff up here. I'm going to actually imply that I'm going to pretend that he has a neck for right now. I'm just going to pretend. So I'm going to extrude up on Z. I'm just going to drag this forward. We're going to want to pay close attention to what's happening here. Make sure that his neck is not getting too skinny, or that his verts are looking ugly. Gotta make sure they look good. And I'm just gonna merge those together because that's not helping me right now. Alright, and then I'm gonna kind of guess where his head would start. I'm gonna extrude on Z again. I'm gonna drag it over here, rotate on X. Maybe make it a bit bigger, so I'm just scaling it up. I'm going to extrude on Y, rotate on X again, extrude again, rotate on X. I always make sure to rotate and extrude on an axis because believe me, if you just do it without having any help, it can do this stuff, and that's not what you want. So we will always extrude and rotate on the axis. I'm actually going to move that back a little. We're mostly just watching from the side over here. I'm going to add another loop here because his head is looking wildly flat. Not so good. Look at that, you're already creature designing. You haven't even started. Alright, we're going to add the muzzle now, so we're going to extrude again. I'm going to make that about the size of the muzzle. Extrude one more time, rotate on X, I think. And then get the relative shape of the muzzle, because we're not going to worry about if it's right now. We're just doing it. We're probably going to want another. Okay, so the other thing that's really imperative that I use every day is pressing K, which is the knife tool. I make sure I'm on a vertex, and then I kind of cut up and around, just like paper mache. I'm going to close that off, and magically, as if by magic, another row has appeared. And this will be a very, very useful tool, believe me. Okay, I'm just going to round them out a little bit, and I think I'll end the video here. It's getting a little long, but yeah, here is the base. So I will show you how to take it from this blobby orange candy treat to a powerful looking Arcanine dog in the next video. Alright, see you guys.